Hello, so this is a bit of a funny one. It's a follow-on video from the mission that we covered here, down in Nadi Alley at Green 5 Junction. And it is, well, half of it's going to be reflection and a sort of wrap-up, and the other half I'm sort of going to put out some other content that I've made for the game. But the first half, the reflection, I finished reading Dead Men Risen probably a few months back now, but I figured something out which sort of stumped me a bit, and basically it was to do with where the actual events happened. So you might remember from the video I was a bit thrown off by the fact that the checkpoint Haji Lem was on the eastern side of the canal, and my recollection was it was on the western side of the canal. And so what we've got here, this is from the Kindle edition, showing firstly, picture you can see there is Haji Lem from a helicopter, so looking down on it, and then there's a couple maps sort of describing the area. So from that you can take away the fact that there is junction Green 9 and Green 5, and at the time of the event Haji Lem was at Green 9, down at the bottom there, and it turns out in a mixed about way I was right. So in August of 2009, Haji Lem moved from Green 9 in the south to Green 5 north of there. And I suppose looking a bit further, that then means, in a very, and again, I don't quite know how to absorb this information, but I was at the location of the event. So from this article here, you can see a story about Kylie, basically. So the medic that was at the checkpoint I was at, she spent most of her tour there and won the military cross. That's why there's an article about her. But in it, she actually describes the fact that they'd pushed out of Haji Lem and they set up a new base south of there, which to me all ties up. So they pushed south, went to Azadi, and that's where I was based for the very end of the tour. So yeah, a bit of a mad thing to take on board. And so when I look at my tour pictures, I can kind of start to see this, which is just crazy to me. So that this is the southeast Sanger, and you can sort of see these buildings out in this direction. So this black box represents Azadi to me, or Haji Lem, and that red box represents those buildings to the south of us. And then this is that road that in the game we pushed out and sent our troops down this way. In the game it's all zigzaggy because it's staying true to north. As I said, most of Nadi Alley is this sort of grid formation. It's a very, very, very straight road. That's the road we pushed out down. This building is, I tell you what, if I just do this, these buildings here correspond with these buildings here. And then one last shot from the Sangers. So this is the southeast corner, I think, and that's sort of looking northwest. Correction, southwest corner looking northwest. So that kind of corresponds with this cone here. Now again, looking back at these tour pictures and recollections of the time, I'm not quite sure what to draw from this, if I'm honest. I suppose you could do some kind of comparison of the 2 years. I do know from the article that was written that when they initially pushed south back to reclaim the land and set up checkpoint Azadi, they were engaged in daily firefights. But in all honesty, by the time I was there, it was dead quiet. It was fine. I know this would have coincided with Tor Shizada and the American Marines taking Marja, so there will be a heap of activity to the south of this location, and thousands of additional troops surged into the area, so you don't really want to start a fight with those. But But yeah, by the time I was there, it's dead quiet. I think there was one or two pot shots, maybe one time they actually engaged the checkpoint, but the rest of it, my recollection was just IEDs, which is what this picture is here. So you might be able to make part way up the road. There is these. I think what they are is the sort of local national markers, and you can see sort of lines across the road. I believe that relates to an IED strike that happened on that road, where a local national boy lost his legs, basically. He survived. He came to our checkpoint and was evacuated, and we heard back from the hospital at Bastion. He survived. But this was typically what we're seeing at that time. No longer these sort of big firefights. It was mostly IED strikes. And that sort of characterizes my memory of this time. But in all honesty, that's a rarity. It was relatively peaceful at the very end of my tour. I didn't ever have to leave the checkpoint, in all honesty. I could do my job from the actual base. And I suppose because Tor Shahzada, we were sort of filling manpower gaps in terms of the infantry had gone off to conduct that operation. It was a sort of minimum manning at the checkpoint, so we were operating on the Sangers. And generally speaking, I mean, it was peaceful by then. I can remember we had a checkpoint pet, so this puppy turned up.
Butschi, sit. Sit. Good girl. Ready? Catch.
We managed to get fresh food to the checkpoint, so which made me quite sick after quite a prolonged period on rations. And then we also got this silly little balloon that nowadays you just have a drone, but we got that and it got punctured. So that's the thing that's happened. The second part of the video, like I said, was releasing a bit of content for the game. So what I've been playing with in the background was a map. It mostly to play with this sort of auto editor that I saw online. I'll link in the description, but it's a fantastic tool that what I've used it for is to fill in the elevations. So it's taken all these spot heights from online databases and put together elevations for Kajaki, and it takes all the effort out of that. I believe you can also do the terrain, so it is smart enough to say there is a road here, there is a forest there. That was more effective, I found, in Europe. It was very, very basic when I tried it here, but it's been fantastic for spot heights, so we'll look at that very briefly. Here we go. So this is giving me a lovely blank canvas where you have all the correct elevation for this part of the world. And then this is the sort of finished product. So part of it was the interesting technical side of it, actually being able to make it. And then this side of it was just sort of paint by numbers therapy to fill in the gaps of the overlay, to actually say there's a field here, there's a road there, which very nicely puts together this. And then that in turn is this. So this is the finished map that we've got here. You have what we've got going on. So you've got the green zone, you've got this feature here called the shrine, you've got Tangi village, and the actual ridgeline of Kajaki itself. I think it works a lot better up at this height, so it's a lot more pretty to look at when you're moving units on a grander scale and following along from this height, looking at the bigger picture. It's not too bad at lower levels. Certainly on this side of the river, it's not too bad. Same in the green zone. There's a reasonable amount of detail going on there. And I think sort of up to the wadi, I will be honest, this side of the wadi starts getting a bit sparse. Because it is in real life, it's just, I'm not even sure if I remember there being crops and fields this far out. But this side's a little more sparse. I'm not sure if that could do some further work on. But that's what it looks like. And in terms of play testing, I suppose, what I found so far, the main thing is the distances involved. So I did a little mission where I pushed out from Tangi village to take the shrine, and there was AI. There is no AI plan, but the AI typically are taking up positions in buildings. And what I found was you have a dushka, like a heavy machine gun, on a rooftop, and it outranges your sections. So you've got like your range is 500 to 700 meters section level, and they've got a weapon that touches out to 1 kilometer if it wants to. So that was a challenge there. I would say though, looking at it as I finished it off, I think there might be some limitations on what you can actually play realistically. 2008 is probably fine. So some people may have watched Commando on the front line. I think there was one episode where they actually did that. They pushed out and took the shrine. So in 2008, it sounds like there was Taliban able to reach up and control the shrine. Likewise for Sparrowhawk West. So I remember listening to a Imperial War Museum. There was a recording that, again, I'll put in the description, where one of the Marines in 2008 had a sort of firefight between Sparrowhawk West and probably Sparrowhawk East. But for me, so when I was there in 2010, a few years later, I don't know if it covers enough. Most of the patrolling I did, so we went to the shrine, Pyramid Hill, I think was up here. Then you've got Ant Hill on this side of the wadi, Essex Ridge. Sort of that's where I was pushing out to, and then when you're looking at the actual infantry, they were pushing out even further. So Mazdarak over here, Kaji, Kalalabad or something, I think was Bagakel, Shabazkel, all the way out here. You might get away with down in the green zone, but then when I was looking at YouTube as well, there's a video of the Marines, American Marines, blasting treeline black with like mine clearance vehicle. Even that might be not enough space to actually do a scenario. So, and then I believe the USMC pushed much further down to Big Top. There's a place way off screen down this way. So you might get a bit of fighting up on the ridgeline. You might get a bit of you could do a mission to replay the events of Commando on the front line. Bertie Kerr took the shrine. But there may be some limitations. This is as far as I'm going to take it. I'm quite pleased with it. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So that'll be, again, in the description. And yeah, I suppose the next time I catch you, we'll hopefully be putting some more Normandy content out.